Last week I aired a video on this Suntour Epixon air fork, and immediately following that I received a lot of questions about how I extended the travel out from 100 millimeters to 120. So I'm going to go ahead and demo that for you now. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need to do before you do any work to the fork is you're going to need to let all of the air out of it. To do that, you just got to take the little air cap off. And then I just use like a small screwdriver just to let all the air out. And it doesn't take much. So there you go. So now all your air is removed. Once the air is out, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take the rebound adjuster out, and it's just pressed in. It's actually held in with like a small O-ring, but it is in there really tightly. So I use a small piece of packing foam and a pair of pliers to get it out. Oh, popped out pretty easily. Once you've got the rebound adjuster, you're going to need a 8mm Allen, and you're going to need a 5mm Allen. 8mm for this side, 5mm for this side. So I'll flip it over here, and we'll start off with our 8mm side. And what you're going to do, just going to put it in, and this is where that rebound adjuster used to be. And once it's in there good, you just break it loose, and you'll have a small hollow bolt that comes through. Now for your 5mm side, you're going to remove it from the opposite of the damping side. So this is your actual air side. This is where the air spring goes, and that's going to be 5mm, and this is going to be a slightly longer. This is going to be a slightly longer bolt. Alright, so that's all that's required to remove your lowers. Now, once you've got the bolts out, you're just going to kind of pull on the crown and the lowers, and they should completely pop right out, separate. Now, to make your adjustment, you're actually going to have to remove the air side. What you're going to need to do that is a large adjustable wrench. Adjust it out. It's going to fit right onto this. Now you got to be careful because this is aluminum, so you want to be very gentle. Just break it loose and then remove it by hand. Once loosened from the stanchion, you're simply going to pull out, and the whole spring assembly is going to come out with it. Alright, so once you've got it removed from your stanchion, this is what you're going to have. It's a small metal rod, and it's going to have two springs on it, a little black cap, this threaded cap piece, and then this tapered wedge looking piece. Now this is the piece that you're actually going to need to move. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide the springs, down away from it, and what you'll see is right here you've got 80mm of travel. Right here, you've got 100, you've got 120, 130, and this one actually has 140. Now, I can't guarantee that yours will have 130 or 140, but I think most of them will have at least 100 and 120. And that goes for the Raidon, the Epixon, the Epicon, and a couple others. But make sure you check with the manufacturer just to determine what fork you have before you go through this process and find out that you don't have the amount of travel you're looking for. So to move this, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to remove the roll pin that runs through the center, and it's just a straight roll pin. You can either use a punch or if you've got a pin press. Pin press is preferred. Punch will work if you do not have one. And what you're going to want to do is take that pin out and then move the wedge to your desired location. So you got 80, 100, 120, 130, 140. So move it to the desired location and then reinstall the pin. Something that you'll need to be mindful of is the fact that this is a hollow rod, and using a hammer on it is probably not the best approach at taking this pin out of here. So what I actually do is I chalk a 1/8 inch drill bit upside down in my drill press, and then I use the press to actually push the pin out from here. Now a hammer will work, but you really want to be very careful and supportive, because if you hit this the wrong way, you will bend that rod. Now I'm not going to take the pin out because like I said before, I've already maxed out the suspension travel for my bike. So I don't need to move this from 120 to anything further. Once you get that put back in and you've got it all pressed in, make sure you get it all the way in so it's flush. You can go ahead and just reverse the process. So basically you're going to take the rod and you're going to run it into the stanchion here. And then you're going to thread this down. So once you've got it threaded down finger tight, you're just going to take your adjustable wrench and you're just to snug it, you do not want to go down hard on this. You just want to get it, a little bit past finger tight so it's going to stay in place. Once that's complete, I always suggest just putting a little grease on there, just kind of working it around on there. And that's going to keep the whole assembly up in there lubricated. Those springs will get nice and lubricated, and it'll stay in good shape. Okay, so while you've got your fork disassembled, you might as well go ahead and clean it up real quick. So I just take, a rag and wipe the grease down. And do it on both your stanchions just to get everything cleaned up. And I'll go ahead and just put a fresh dab on each side. Just kind of rub it around. Because you don't want this to be super, super heavily lubricated, but you do want some there. You don't want those seals to stick to the stanchions. You want them to move nice and freely as the stanchions travel in and out. At the same time, you might as well clean up the seals on your lowers while you've got them removed, and you can get in there and get all those nooks and crannies. Make sure that the dirt does not fall down into the opening though. You just want to kind of wipe the seals down from the outside. Alright, so once you've got your stanchions lubricated and your lowers all cleaned up, the next step is just going to be to go right back together. So, simple as that. And you're just going to take, and now you got to be very careful that you don't damage those seals. So you want to be very gentle as you slide everything together. And you got to kind of watch both sides as you do this. And the non-air side is the side that tends to be a little more difficult. And once you get it popped in, you just go ahead and slide everything right on together just like that. And then I can press it all the way so that your innards bottom out and you can get your bolts in on both sides. Once you've got that all assembled, you're going to take your 5mm bolt and you're going to install it on the non-rebound side and make sure that it's got a little washer on it. Just make sure that that seats inside the bottom. So now for your rebound side, you've actually got to get everything aligned. So I take the rebound adjuster and I just set it in the bolt. I don't install it all the way, but that's going to help you center everything up. So you can just kind of work it around until you can start threading that in by hand. Then take your adjuster out, thread it in hand tight, and then take your 8mm Allen and get it down in there. And same thing as the other side, just tighten it down snug. We don't really want to go all that tight with it. Once that's tightened, you can take your rebound adjuster, pop it back up in there, and voila, you are done. Now all you got to do is air it back up, make sure you don't have any leaks, which you shouldn't. This should have really no effect on that, and you're good to go. You can go back together with your bike.